Sawadee ka! Welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. Today I'm going to share with you a dish that you won't often find in restaurants, but more often in people's homes. So it's got that home-cooked meal charm and simplicity, but it's super delicious and super healthy. It's called Pat Fak Tong, which simply means a stir-fry of kabocha squash. And normally this dish is not vegetarian, but since I've been getting a lot of requests for vegetarian dishes, I'm going to make it vegetarian today, and trust me, it'll be equally delicious. I've tried it both ways. I can almost not tell the difference. So here is what you will need. So a kabocha squash looks like this. You just have to visualize the rest of it, okay? And what we need is about 300 grams, which is about a quarter of a squash that would have been this size. So you want to cut it into pieces like this. You want to keep it thin because we're stir frying it, so you don't want it to take too long to cook. And you also want to make sure they're even thickness as much as is possible. Otherwise, you have one that's overcooked and one that's undercooked. And when these things overcook, they go mushy. So you don't want that to happen. When you pick them from the store, you want to make sure that the green bits are really dark green, and then make sure that it's got a bright orange patch on them somewhere, because that means that they are ripe. And when kabocha squashes are ripe, they are sweeter and has a kind of a smoother, creamier texture that works much better in both savory and sweet dishes. And by the way, I used this kabocha squash in my Halloween dessert episode, so if you're interested in how to use this in a dessert, you can go and check that out. You can leave the skin on for this. It's completely edible when it's cooked. It's also more nutritious. But if your kabocha squash has what I call the scars, so to be these hard brown marks, I just like to slice those off with a peeler or just with a knife. Just slice it off because those parts don't cook to be very soft. Last thing I want to talk about is Golden Mountain sauce. Golden Mountain seasoning sauce. It comes in a bottle like this. It's just a different kind of soy sauce. If you can't find it, you can use another type of soy sauce, or you can just use one type of soy sauce. But I like to use a couple of different kinds because then you add a different layer of complexity to the dish. If you're not trying to make this vegetarian, you can also use oyster sauce and or fish sauce into the mix. So I've got a wok here with just a little bit of oil at the bottom, getting it all heated up, and then I'm going with some chopped garlic. The more the better with garlic. Yeah, I really didn't put a whole lot of oil, just enough to lubricate the pan. This is supposed to be a healthy dish, so if you go and add a whole bunch of oil, then it just kind of defeats the purpose. By the way, if you're not trying to make this vegetarian, you can also add protein. So what I would do is you'd add your pork or chicken or whatever right here, cook it. I take it out while the squash cooks, because the squash cooks for quite a bit, so you don't want to overcook the meat, and then add the meat back in later. So okay, the garlic is starting to turn a little bit golden brown now. I'm gonna go in with the squash and just toss it just to coat the squash with oil. And then I'm gonna go in with some water. You can also use stock. This is the hardest part of making this dish, is getting the amount of water right. So what I like to do is to just add enough so it's sort of, I don't know, sitting in a pool of liquid, and let it go and keep adding more water as it cooks, so that way I don't run into the problem of, oh my god, I had way too much water and now the whole thing is soup. And so you can always fine tune. Now what some people will do at this point is they will cover it and let the squash steam. You know what? I forgot. You want to go with all your sauces. The sugar, that's all the sauces. And also, I forgot my white pepper, but white pepper would be really good in this. What was I saying? So, yes, some people will cover this and let the squash steam, and they will cook faster, and you can do that. But I don't like to do that because once it's out of sight, then I often forget, and then I come back and now they're overcooked. So if I keep it always visible, then I can sort of see, I can judge, and everything's just more under my control, and it just takes a few minutes longer, but hey, I'm not in a rush. So you want to keep stirring it every once in a while just to distribute the heat evenly, because some of the pieces are submerged, some are not. So not too often, just every once in a while. And so the amount of water needed will also depend on how hot your stove is. If your heat is very high, you lose more water. If your pan is very wide, you'll also lose more water. So there's lots of factors that go into how much water do you actually need. So that's why I'm not giving you any sort of definite amount here. So now what you're looking for is for the squash to be done but still firm. Take the edge of my spatula and poke it, and if it can go through but still feels firm, that's it. I can't do that yet. It's not going through very well, so that means I've got a bit to go. So the whole process should take about 5 to 7 minutes. This was my favorite dish as a kid because it doesn't look like vegetables. It's just so bright and colorful, and it's sweet, and so it's a really good way to get kids to eat lots of vegetables. Okay, I feel like I'm almost there. Yeah, I can dig my spatula in now, and I've got a good amount of liquid there. So I'm gonna go in with my eggs. And the egg is gonna mix in with that sauce, and it's gonna become super delicious. The egg is my favorite part in this dish. So you're gonna let the egg set. And then once the egg's sort of semi-cooked, just give it a flip to further scramble. Okay, that looks good. Cook it a bit more. That's good. This is a good amount of liquid. I like it because sometimes it gets a bit dry, which if that happens, if it's too dry, just add a little more water and everything will sort of come out into a saucy. Okay, this is perfect. Go in with the basil. Lots and lots of basil. Turn the heat off so our basil doesn't wilt to nothingness. And just distribute that aroma. So good. And that's it. That's done. God, the smell. By the way, the combination of squash, kabocha squash and basil works in other recipes as well. I've done a squash soup, like a Western style squash, pureed squash soup with Thai basil. Oh, so nice. And by the way, if you are a non-egg eating vegetarian, I know some of you are thinking, "Gah, eggs!" You can also add crumbled tofu, so something to absorb all that good sauce. I mean, you can just leave it out and just do squash all by itself, but crumbled tofu would sort of give the same function as the egg in that one, it's protein, two, it's just sauce sponge. A sprig of beautifully flowering Thai basil. And it's so pretty! I'm gonna taste it for you so you know how good this is. Make sure you get a chunk of garlic. Yeah, don't chop your garlic too fine. These big chunks, so good. So good. The aroma of the basil and the squash, God, it's just such a good combination. This would be good even like over pasta, like, you know, turn this into some sort of a pasta sauce would be perfect. And that's it. That's all I got for you. I hope you get a chance to make this. It's so fast, so easy, and so good and healthy. No reason you shouldn't make this. So if you want the recipe, you can visit hotthaikitchen.com. If you enjoy the show, please click to subscribe. And I will see you next time for your next delicious Thai meal.